started. We are live streaming, obviously. That's going live now, and we will start with our karakia. So if everyone to stand. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te waka, ia mā kina ki uta, mā taratara te kai, e hi ake ana te atakura, he tia e huka, he hauhu, tihei mauriora. Kia ora. We have an apology today from John, and I haven't heard anything from Simon and Jake, so hopefully they might turn up. And we have Bridie online. Welcome, Bridie.
Hi, thanks for having me, Ronan. Sorry about the rush to get me on here. Bang on 4. I've got a meeting with another board meeting immediately after this, so sorry I couldn't be there in person today. So, yeah, I prefer not to do this over Zoom, but here we are.
Try and make it quick as we'll save questions so that we make sure you get time to get through your understanding of questions.
Cool. Thank you very much. So community parks rolling renewal. So I came last year. We do this every year to go through our future program of work. So if I just open up, you've got the presentation there. If we just roll through to that first slide, I'll roll through the presentation because I'll take that cover sheet as read. So what is a rolling renewal program? So our renewal funding, it's a capital expenditure, and it's used to replace and refurbish assets that just so that we can sort of maintain those levels of service. What it doesn't include is upgrades of service. So we're not going into to upgrade our existing assets. It doesn't include routine maintenance or new development. So if we're coming in and we're going to be renewing some park furniture, we won't then go in and put 3 new pieces of furniture in. So our budgets are also set through the long-term plan. And the funding is generally allocated by asset type within different park categories. So we have community parks and we've got regional parks, garden heritage parks. So they're split out amongst those park types and then to the asset category. So if you scroll to the next one. So how do we determine what's renewed? So we have staff that monitor the condition and performance of all of our assets, and they're prioritised for renewal based on the life expectancy, their condition. So our condition ratings go from 1 to 5, 1 being very good, 5 being very poor, and also their replacement costs. So assets are typically renewed at the end of their life once they get to that 4-5 asset category level. They're split, our programs are split into specific projects for 3 or 4 year delivery packages, and they're renewed annually, just reflecting the priorities. So priorities that you have, priorities that our asset database have, and our staff. So when we go through the program, the current financial year that we're in, FY26, that we've just started, that's fixed, it's sort of locked down. The reason for that is because we've already scoped it and we're committing to that work now. Contracts might be set in place. Some of the work for green asset renewal is already happening on the ground in some cases, so we don't have a lot of flexibility to move those. But in the future year candidates from FY27, 8, 9, there's flexibility where we can move those candidates around to reflect your priorities. So if we move on down to that next slide, one thing I will just mention, if we have candidates that we want to be brought forward into the program, we often will request that you nominate a candidate to be shifted back down that program. The reason for that is otherwise we end up overcommitting. We might not be able to deliver the work that we said we were going to, and also we can then blow out our budgets, which we have no authority to do. So how do we determine what's renewed? So like I said, asset condition is a big one. That's sort of like the main driver. Safety is the main one as well. Community use and demand, how often are people actually using that asset? How critical it is. So if we only have that one piece of equipment and the whole of parks, then it's going to be a really high priority. The cost of renewal, is it feasible to renew that type of asset anymore? How does renewing that align with other work that we have? So for green asset renewal, we try to align as much as we can with the urban forest plan and their tree planting programs. asset age and legal requirements to a lesser extent as well in the park space. So if I go to the next slide, I always think pictures are good. There's just a couple of examples of what renewals are. So they're nothing new. We're not putting new things into the environment. What we're just doing is renewing our existing assets. So on the right-hand side, this is Washington Way Skate Park. It's a typical garden bed. On the right, it's got some dead plants and some gaps, weeds, rogue plants as well I see in there. Then onto the left-hand side, that's when the staff have come through. They've removed all that dead, dying, diseased plant material. They've replaced some of that soil with fresh soil. They've implanted more appropriate plants, I would say, in this instance, and they've come through and mulched it. And the next one is an example of a playground renewal. So this was, I think it was Avebury. Yeah, Avebury. So on the top picture is it beforehand. Pretty generic type 25, 30-year-old sort of looking furniture there, and pieces of equipment, to sort of new modern equipment. We haven't increased our level of service here. The playability of all the items you see in there pretty much reflected on what used to be there, except it's more modern. It meets modern safety standards, and you will see when we come through and do our asset renewals, we talk about like for like, not same for same. The reason for that is sometimes the equipment that we used to have, say 20 years ago, we can't get that anymore. So in that top picture, you'll see what's called a rocktopus, the thing with the squiggly arms. We can't actually get those anymore at all. So when we've come to renew it, on that lower picture, that sort of cone-shaped structure, we've had to replace that rocktopus with that one there, simply because we can't get that. But it has the same sort of play value. So we look at what you get out of it in a like-for-like scenario, not trying to place exactly what was there. So that's the presentation. You got any questions so far?
Yeah, Vic. Thank you, Bridie.
Yep.
What about the likes of a bark replacement or a soft fall surface replacement in a playground? So although something may not be on your renewal list for a certain period of time, if we're having concerns expressed by members of the public about a bark needing replacement or a new mat from a health and safety perspective, does that fall outside this work stream? And is there some flexibility to give those sorts of safety issues a priority?
Yep, so we have some budget for safety surfacing. It does fall outside of this rolling renewal program though. We do have, there's two types. We do have some safety surface funding and we also have recreational surface funding. Both are reactive funds.
Oh,
so
great.
So we can do that. I know that the plan is actually looking to put a bid in for some additional funding for safety surfacing because it's something that's traditionally been under-resourced. And it's getting to that point now where actually a lot of our playgrounds, we're having to put a lot of money into refreshing that bark mulch, and it's sort of taking from other areas we actually would like to spend some money on. So yes, there are options, and we're going to ask.
Thanks, Bridie. And is the best way to do that just via a CSR?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you. The other question I've got is about rubbish bins at playgrounds, slightly outside scope, but I think intersecting with the scope. When you're looking at the work you're doing in a playground and doing a renewal or an upgrade, do you look at that issue at the same time?
Yeah,
because
so depending
when there used to be rubbish bins beside playgrounds, and then once we went through our new rubbish bin policy change where we put bigger bins and less bins, then I've found a number of places where the bins are no longer being replaced by playgrounds. So how does that intersect, and is there room in your budgets for that, or how do you tackle that?
Yep. So we have, when we make a decision to put a new bin in, if it's going to be a high-use playground, so like, for instance, Lancaster Park's going to have a new playground, and it's going to be a big new destination playground. So we expect lots and lots of people to go there. In that instance, we would provision for a bin to go in. If we're doing a local renewal playground, like a small one here, as this example in the PowerPoint, we wouldn't look to do put a new bin in there. So we yeah, no is really the answer in most cases, unless it's a high use area.
Thank you.
There have been instances in the past where community boards have funded bins from there.
Yep. There's
Okay.
discretionary funding has been used for that.
Okay, so again, when residents have got issues about bins, just put it in as a CSR or bring it to the community board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I'm getting more calls from people who are going to places where dogs are walked particularly and there aren't bins there for dogs.
Educate people to take their own rubbish home.
Carry the
poo round.
Yes.
All
right, some people want to be able to put them there instead of throw them in the bush or whatever, right? So you can't make people change their behaviour.
You can.
What I wondered, Emma, could I ask my question, please? How much of this equipment, Bridie, is replaced with something from preferred providers, or what's your pool of people that you access for the supply of these things? Do you go to open tender? Is it a fixed group? How does that work?
Yeah, so generally they go out to market for each of them. Where we can, we try to package them up. So in your boards, for example, we have Regency, Nori, and Momarangi playgrounds. So what we would do is we package those up, and then that would go out for tender. It just means we can drive the best price.
But when you say go to tender, do you mean to the open market, or you've
Yes.
got suppliers?
To the open market.
And what's the mechanism used for that?
Gets.
Oh, right. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
We try to, we like to now try to do use local suppliers where possible. Two things. It's the supply chain. It's really sometimes playground equipment can take a very long time to reach our shore from overseas. And there's also large freight costs associated with that. And that can then take away how many play elements we can then put in on the ground in that play space.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to clarify something around the rubbish bins because we're probably listening to this. So it's not the cost of the bins that's actually the main thing, it's the capital cost. It's the future operation of those bins and having them emptied. So do they then, if the community board found a need for a bin somewhere, does that then have to go through to council to go into the OPEX program?
It's a good question.
It is a good question because you want to know if it has a rates impact for.
It will.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that we can't just raise people's expectation and say we need a bin and we need to get that budgeted for, and whether the community board agrees to pay for that for a rolling program for 10 years, I don't know.
From previous experience, we have funded the bins, but we have had an agreement from the Parks unit that they have the ability for the ongoing costs. Because part of the discretionary response fund says that we cannot fund things that become an ongoing cost or financial cost to council.
So we can do that if the Parks unit has a budget for another
ongoing costs.
I think we did that with a couple of smart bins.
Yeah, we did this smart things.
But then don't forget, I think they might have been replacing the other ones. But anyway, just don't want to raise people's expectation that you can just go, look, we need a bin here and get one, because it's not.
Yeah, there are sometimes, some scenarios, if it's just onesie twosies every now and then, like we've done, we can absorb those costs. But if we're going to start doing this wholesale, just because someone's asked when we put one in, that is definitely going to have an impact. Yeah. So that's why we just do need to be a little bit careful about when and where we put them in.
Yeah. Emma, just very quickly. Bridie, I'm just wondering, you mentioned I can't remember the phrase you used when you described the similarity of the octopus to whatever it's replaced. Did you say what did you say?
Like for like?
Yes,
yep, like.
No, you used a phrase that described how it was still the same kind of enjoyment. Playability, did you say?
Yeah.
How is that assessed?
So how it functions, so how it moves generally. So if it's if you're replacing a swing, kids like that sort of swinging movement. If you can't get that swing, then you have something else that moves like that, so they get that same sort of sensation. Sometimes it's a tactile thing, a climbing feature. If you can't have the ladder, then there might be some other climbing type feature that we could substitute in.
Okay, thank you.
And just some feedback on the octopus. Saying that they don't make them anymore because we've got one at our local park, and you see teenagers and parents and everyone absolutely loves them, so it's a real shame.
It is.
I can't see teenagers and parents doing that other one, spinning thing.
Yeah, there's really nothing on the market that does that same sort of spinning thing that can accommodate, young kids, teenagers, adults, which it is a real shame. I mean, I know putting my 2-year-old on myself, she loves it, and then I like to get on and have a swing. So, yeah, you're right. It's annoying.
Yeah. Is there, I see the one at Murchison Park is scheduled to be removed. Is that?
It is.
That's an age thing?
It is. It's an age thing. I was going to, I think I've made a note there that, it would be, we might need to consider a different piece of equipment. I was going to get City Care to have a look at that to see if there's actually anything that we can do to just prolong its life a little bit more. Sometimes we get to a threshold where you just can't do that anymore, though. So I don't want to raise your expectation that we're going to do that, but it is something that we're going to try to do.
Cool. Good to know. One other question I have is, I'm just looking at the ones that are scheduled in Papanui over the next 2 years, and there's a lot around this, like the Redwood sort of area, that were obviously all done at the same time because that's when all the housing was built in that area. So they're scheduled for replacement within a few years of each other. Will that mean that they all have pretty much the same thing? And so in 30 years' time, it'll be come around at the same time again, and you'll have all these little pockets of parks with the same equipment? I mean, would it be would somehow make them all a bit different so that they're not?
We can do, and we can take that feedback on board. So when we do rolling renewal programs, we don't often go out to the public and say, hey, what do you want? Because it's usually just like for like. Playgrounds are a little bit different, where we still consult. So if we go out and we consult, we say, hey, look, these are type pieces of equipment we recommend that we could afford to put in, we can try get some variation in those areas so you don't get a park that just looks the same as the next one, to try vary some of that play equipment. It's doable.
Cool. That would be good. Right.
We can ask questions now around the green asset renewals and the hard surfaces, or have you got more to present before we get to that?
No, go for it.
Okay. It's in relation to the hard surface renewal, the Styx River Conservation Reserve cycleway. I'm just looking at my, and it stops and it says not.
I think there's an error there.
Yeah, there's an issue up with reserve up there, up around the boulevard area, where there is a desire line that's really heavily used and it's a muddy track. It's where the cycleway ends over at the Northern Corridor cycleway, and it needs to connect into the park, and we had understood that would have been done some time ago, but it's changed. Is that what you're referencing there as FY26, please?
Yes, that is the one. So that little bracket that says not, that's where it's been removed, is actually not delivered FY25, which is when it was supposed to be delivered last year. So that's now on our program to be delivered as one of the first cabs off the rank this financial year. River's a little bit. No, we've got it.
Okay, thank you. And then keen to understand, you've also got St James Park in there at FY28. That was done not that long ago. How frequently do the hard surface renewals come around? Because that's been done in the last couple of years.
That was done.
As has Edgar Mack.
Yep, you're right. So those were done not that long ago because of the aggregate that's used. So it's not a sealed pathway. So they come up for renewal quicker than the rest. However, those ones there, I'm going to review those because there might just be some small little areas that need topping up. I don't believe that the whole thing needs to be done because it was not that long ago. And it's actually stood up really well. We were down there as a parks unit at Edgar Mack about 2 or 3 weeks ago for a planting, and nothing around the pathways really stood out to me that could justify a renewal.
Oh, yeah, that's great, thanks. And can you explain what the green asset renewal actually means? What does it encompass? The rest of this is reasonably self-explanatory, but I'm not sure what the green asset renewal actually encompasses. Thanks.
Yep. So it's anything that grows except for a tree or sports turf in its most simplistic terms. So all garden borders, shrub borders, and amenity turf and hedges.
So would that be like what's just been done in and around Edgar Mack?
Yep.
huge planting program. So was that what you'd call a green asset renewal with like
Correct.
2,000 plants?
Yep. So we did that one as like a parks exercise. That's why you haven't seen it on this. It was actually an FY25 green asset renewal.
Yeah, huge piece of work. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Just jumping back to the Styx River Conservation Reserve. So that one that's in there is obviously the connection to the shared path on the motorway. The path around by the river has like no gravel left on it at the moment. So I think maybe that's due.
Yep. Yep, would hit them both.
Great. And then one other question I had is English Park is on there for hard surface renewals. Is that the turf?
Hard surface? No. Hard surface is anything that's hard surface is just asphalt and gravel pathways generally.
Cool. Ellie.
I had a question about Fortune Playground, which is on there. Where was it? I had it in front of me. 27. Yeah, no, 26. Fortune Playground 26. Community. Oh, that's the hard surface renewals. I've got FY26 in front of me for Fortune Playground. I'm just wondering, because is there any way that anything that is done there can take into consideration what we're looking at with the dog park at the moment? Do we run the risk?
Oh, right.
Exercise area, we run the risk of sort of one hand not knowing what the other hand's doing or missing the opportunity. It's just the thought. Yeah.
So the Fortune Reserve Playground, is that the one by the old person's home? Yeah. So
it's on the back of Dinah Isaac.
Yes, Dinah Isaac, thank you. And we're putting in like a trial little dog park there, aren't we?
Are we?
Exercise area.
Not exercise area, not a dog park.
Yes, hopefully.
Yes.
Yes, so they're obviously
Yes. It's just a renewal, so we wouldn't be doing anything expensive. And the work that's been done for that little dog park is being delivered in-house by our rangers who work in the same team as our project managers. So I would think there'd be a lot of coordination going on between them.
But obviously there is crossover though. I mean, you're not going to rock up with a digger from one department and then bring a digger in from another department because two different areas are doing it. I mean, there will be discussion surely and economies of scale with it, can't they?
Yeah, no, we wouldn't. We would do that as one, generally as one project. I mean, putting in the little dog park, it's just a fence really, and it's not a big, we wouldn't do anything major anyway.
No.
I'd say it's pretty low risk of there being too much pushback there.
No, that's fine. I was just asking that, as one, are you speaking to each other? It sounds like you are. That's fine, Roddy. Thank you.
Ooh, Emma.
Westminster Park, just overall, is there any update on the area as a whole?
Westminster, I do know that our property team have been approached by someone who wants to use the building potentially. So there's a deadline of 8th of August for them to come back with their proposal to the property team as to whether or not they want to occupy that space potentially. Following that, planning staff are going to come back to you with a report as to what we do as our next steps, depending on the outcome of whether or not that group want to occupy that space.
Okay. So the building is still occupiable?
It needs work.
I thought we would talk. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can't right now. It's not occupiable today.
Well, we thought it was going to be demolished.
That's an option. Yeah. So
we thought that was happening though, Roddy. That was the last bit of information.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
There was quite a late proposal, like last minute proposal that came through.
And is the proposal for the whole area or just the building?
The area that's behind it as well. So that whole hard surface car park area would be included in a potential lease.
And is it a commercial?
I don't actually know. Probably haven't said. I haven't been privy to all of that information. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's great to hear that someone's thinking of using it. And the area does look 100% better than what it looked 4 years ago.
I had a complaint 2 weeks ago about that.
I know this.
Any more questions?
Cool. I will, if you do have further requests to remove any of these future candidates and pull them forward and push them back, if you could, Mark, get that information, we just collate it as one document, because what we want to do following this is I'll be coming back to you guys, and I'm going to be coming back to you, I think on the 11th of September, to gain approval for this program. The reason for that is in previous years when we've done this, other elected members and other boards, actually not you guys, but have wanted things to move around, and there hasn't been visibility with those changes to everyone else at the board. And we want to make sure that it's visible to everyone and that you all approve it. So if I could get any of that feedback from you guys by through Mark by the 21st of August, so that's 4 weeks from today, then I can put that in a decision document and get that to you at that next meeting on the 21st.
And we do a couple of quick questions to finish up. We've got a couple of minutes left. We've got Vic and then
Thank you. It's great to see quite a lot on this agenda across our wards. What, if anything, could risk these projects being delivered? So if there is any reprioritisation at your end, which is going to push these things out, one, what are those factors and how are we going to know about it?
Yeah, so the main thing for us is weather. In terms of hard asset renewal, because we try to get through as much as we can in the summer, because when the ground's not good, we can't lay asphalt. So that's one thing that can be an unknown, which is really difficult. Green asset renewal generally can still go ahead. Sometimes we have plant availability issues, but generally we can substitute plants out. So weather is a main one. Resourcing, we have gone through some change, and I don't believe that's going to be much of an issue moving forward. Find the last restructure or expansion, actually, I should say, with our in-housing. We've seemed to have ironed a lot of that out and sort of made a bit of progress. I don't envisage that being such an issue. I would think that the only risky area really around that is probably some built structures. Our buildings project managers, we've just got a couple new guys on. So I'm hoping that they'll get up to speed really quickly. So any of these buildings throughout the city that we need to be upgraded, renewed or built, we can do that a bit quicker than what we've previously done, but they are new. So that's the only risks I really see.
Thank you.
And Pauline.
Yeah, look, I was just, with your comment about us, moving things around or out and in and the thing is, you have got here a matrix of how you arrive at the timing of these things, and one of them is project alignment, which Kelly was just referring to, and safety, criticality, age, all that. So we don't really have that knowledge. So I think it would be kind of an unusual thing for us. If we did have a concern with one and we thought, can you bring that forward or push it out? Would you then come back with some advice and say, well, no, that's not advisable because?
Yep. So I would look at that. So that gives me a bit of an opportunity to actually review and say, hey, actually, if you do that, this is the risk. Do you still want to go ahead and do that?
Yeah, I just think it's good if we're clear about that, so we don't rush to think we're the experts and, that looks fine, but actually you come back and say, well, no, it's not fine because it's dangerous.
The main areas of risk around safety for that would be playgrounds and some hard surface renewals. But then again, some of the asset data isn't always, I couldn't hand on heart tell you that it's always 100% correct. So especially for hard asset renewal, there's just so much of that asset that sometimes it gets into a worse state over a shorter period of time than we know, and then we can get around to reassess it. So sometimes the community knows a bit more than we do, and sometimes they're telling you and we don't know that. So that's really the kind of information that you might hold that we might not be privy to.
Right, no, that's helpful. Thank you.
And finally, Ellie.
Really quickly, and that's a really good point that Pauline's just made, and I just wanted to add to that too, and this is what I found a little frustrating when we got sent the information, is that when you've got, the information here telling us that these are green asset renewals, and you've got a location, There's no information in there about what is actually being replaced, the age of it, potential costs. There's no detail in it. And if we are meant to be, having an overview of this sort of stuff, then that has to be provided. Now, I agree with Pauline. I don't think we do or should have an overview on this unless there's something in our local community that's been raised with us. So I'm very wary of making any comments about any of these actually, because we've got no detail in them whatsoever. So I'd just like to raise that, and I think I don't understand why we would even input on this, to be honest.
So it's kind of like what you're saying, it's at operational level, but what Bridie's saying is just if there is anything glaring, we can ask her and they'll have another look at it and then come back.
Yeah, but we also don't know what we don't know, right? So for example, there's the hedge in Melbourne Park, it's full of rats, and what's been suggested there is that the hedge be removed as an option. So, that's something that I know only because of residents, but there might be stuff in other areas. We just don't know what we don't know. We have to rely on what these guys are seeing all the time out there, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a large part of the operation.
I think, some boards want to have lots of input and some are just trust staff to do it. And it's sort of it can't be one size fits all. We'll have to go to every board and ask these questions. So I definitely understand what you're saying. And it, it says technically a staff delegation. It's more just to tease out anything that's really you're getting a lot of feedback from the community.
Well, I hope we appreciate you coming and talking to us.
Yes. Well, and I think the point that you make in your memo too about, there is no point in replacing stuff that isn't in a condition that needs renewing. Right. I mean, what numpty would suggest doing that for a start? I mean, I would hope no one.
Okay, thanks very much, Bridie.
Thanks, Bridie.
To your next meeting.
Awesome. All right, thank you very much for your time.
See you.
Bye.
Right. Finish up with
Kia wātia, kia mama, tēnā kau, te tinana, te wairoa, te aratata, koia rā e rongo, whakaira a pere runga, kia tina, hui e tai.
Hi.